longer Ray 5 laser, 10 watt head on it. You've seen this in a lot of my videos. What I'm going to be doing today is upgrading it to a 20 watt module and adding limit switches. So this is going to be involved. It's going to probably end up being a little bit long because I'm going to take you through this step by step coming up. I'm Roger, welcome to the shop, and as I mentioned, I'm going to be upgrading this to a 20 watt head. That also means upgrading the power supply, which is right here. Getting this mounted, we'll take a different bracket on the X-axis gantry. There's going to be quite a bit to this. We're adding limit switches on the X and Y axis, and the wiring to that, we'll have to go back and I'll have to open this up. We'll have to get it onto the motherboard. We're going to have to do a firmware update, and that also is going to change my work area. Right now it's 400 millimeters square. Because this is substantially larger, put that side by side there, than the 10 watt head, this is going to change my work area from 400 by 400 to 375 by 375. So I'll have to make a new grid. Not a big deal. I know how to do that. So first, I guess I'll get this off the baseboard and got some disassembly to do. The first thing to do here is going to be to remove the head, the 10 watt head. And the thumb screws that you use on the 10 watt head, although they will fit the bracket on the new mount, you do not want to use because they will be too long, and the one on my facing me right here will actually run into the limit switch. I know this because I read the manual. So to remove those, I'll have two screws on the back to remove. There are two small screws right here on the back that will need to be removed, and they have little nylon spacers in them, so you gotta, if you're gonna reuse this for anything or save it, don't lose them. So there's that little spacer. What I may do is take this head and repurpose it onto one of my 5 watt lasers and upgrade it. Another spacer. So that releases the head. I'll need to unplug the cable there. Now I have air assist on this. It's a kit that I purchased from Longer to put air assist on it. The new head has the air assist nozzle already built in, so I'll just be plugging that hose into this little connector here when the time comes. And next we're going to have to disassemble this mounting plate and gantry up here. My tie wrap cut off of there. So what we're going to be doing is taking this plate here off and putting this one on in place of it. For that you're going to need a 3M&M alien socket wrench, alien wrench, driver, and on the back side is a nut, and that is 8 M&Ms, believe me. So you'll be taking these screws out, and there's going to be some spacers involved here, and the stepper motor and the wheels, and you're going to have a lot of things to keep track of here. I'll show you here as we get this taken apart. I'm going to get all these loosened up here first. Okay, you'll be reusing the nuts and the washers on the back side, so keep track of those. So as you remove these bolts, the wheels and the spacers are going to fall out. So just keep track of where everything goes. So there's one of the spacers right there. There's one of the wheels. Another spacer. Now the bolts you'll be using to put this back together are different. They're flathead. These are round heads, so you won't be using these again. There again, keep track of all your parts and pieces here. I know this is going to seem to be a little bit fiddly, but it's not as bad as it sounds. And don't lose your eccentric nut, that goes on the bottom roller. So you won't be using that. Now to reassemble, you'll need a flathead screw. You'll need your eccentric nut, spacer, or I should say wheel. Be a good time to check your bearings too. That one's fine. I just put my eccentric nut on the wrong side. It's spacer bearing nut. The little flange pointing out because that goes into the plate on the back. There's a couple ways you could do this. You could take the gantry apart and slide this off and assemble it. I'm going to try to do it on the laser. So I'll get that kind of set in place there, and I'll get a nut and washer just started on it. Won't tighten it up yet. So I'll take another bolt. Spacer. Bearing. Spacer. Into that mounting hole, and there again I'll just start that nut and washer on the back, not tighten it down at all, because I've got one more of these I got to get squeezed in there yet. Get the wires and everything out of the way here. So I got my bolt, spacer, bearing, my other spacer. Make sure that your belt is in the proper place. It goes under the rollers and over the sprocket. I'll just get this scooted back in there. The washer. Oh, I just need to tighten everything back down again, and then set the eccentric. Start with the bottom one here. So right now my eccentric on the bottom is just like way too tight. So I need to loosen that up. You should be able to raise it to the top when the laser's sitting on its side here. And then just tighten up so that it'll go down on its own without just slamming to the other side. So that looks good. Now I'll double check my belt tension here. That shouldn't have changed. There's something I need to check. Okay, we're good with the belt tension. That didn't change at all. So next, be mounting the laser head onto the new plate. So you will have new thumb screws, which are a little bit shorter than the ones you took off from the 10 watt or 5 watt if you're doing an upgrade. You need to put a flat washer on this, and of course you need to do that on both sides. It appeared that I have paint in those threads, so I cannot get these thumb screws in there. Yeah, there's paint or something in there. I can fix that. I'll just chase it out with a 5 M&M tap here. There's definitely a lot of paint in, or powder coat or whatever they coated this with, in those threads in there, because I could not get that screw to go in. Oh, much better. Before I put this head back on, I hope you can see this because it's black on black. There are two little protrusions here that are threaded that fit in these slots right here. And after we get this mounted, we need to put these here, little teeny screws, into those holes on the back. That keeps everything straight up and down so you don't get any wobblation. I'll get this mounted back on there now that I can screw these in easy. And I'll just set it, its washer came off. Now it's not really going to be possible to show how to put these little screws in. What size are these? two M&Ms. It'll be obvious where they go though. You go to insert your line, push down on the little outside ring. You could push your line down in there, pull back up on that outside ring, and now you're connected. Okay, so something I didn't look at ahead of time was you get a whole new wiring harness with this. This is a motherboard end here, and it'll plug in down there. This will go to your stepper motor limit switch over here on the Y-axis. And this runs over to the laser head and the Z-axis. I should say your laser head. So I need to take the old wiring harness off here first. Come around here, I got to cut a bunch of wire ties. Unplug the X-axis stepper motor. It's off of my little custom cable holder up here. Unplug the Y-axis motor. I'll kind of thread this over out of the way back to the motherboard that we'll be opening up here in a few minutes. So now, starting from this backwards. The new harness in here. Stepper motor. Of course, don't plug it in wrong. Only goes in one way. Don't force those. If you have to force them, you're going to bend pins. Then you're going to wish you hadn't done that because they're almost impossible to straighten back out. Yeah, we got that plugged back in. Now I need to gather up some wire ties. Move this all the way over there. So I can get this around to where I can plug in my stepper motor. And the Y-axis limit or X-axis limit is going to mount over here someplace. Probably on the back side. I have this turned upside down. The limit switch goes on the stepper motor side, of course. And it needs to be, this side needs to be 33 M&Ms from this bracket down here. If I open my caliper up here to 33, I think it was 33. Yep. And I'll double check that after I tighten it down. $32.99, I can go with that. And I'll just need to plug that little guy in. Okay, that takes care of the X-axis. Now we need to do the Y-axis limit. Axis limit mounts down here towards the motherboard, and you'll see that you'll have a cable here for that, and it's got a little Y marked right on it. So this limit switch needs to be, I've got a little cheat sheet right here. This needs to be 72 M&Ms from this plate. Of course, you'll want the lever. That's this guy facing your gantry. So we'll get this kind of set in place here a little bit. Preferably with the right size Allen wrench. Zero that. It's to be 72. I need to move that back quite a bit. That marks the spot right there. Make sure that stays straight. Don't over tighten those. That's plastic under there. You'll break that. Get this guy plugged in. Now I'll get this back upright again. Next here we're going to need to remove this controller from the frame because we got to get inside it and there's screws on the back. And I don't believe you can get to all four of them without taking that off first. What is up with this? Of course, don't lose your hardware. Of course, that's a different size. On the back side here, there's 4 screws we're going to have to take out. Two M&Ms. I seem to have one where the head is stripped out. This could get interesting. Not the way I wanted to do it. Seems like there's always something. Yeah, I left that little bit in there about that screw just so you can see that stuff happens. Things don't always go as smooth as you think they should. Okay, so here's your new wiring harness. Here's the old wiring harness. Everything is marked here. Mostly. Not sure about that one. Oh, I see where that goes. Okay, you would want to just take these off one at a time and put these on one at a time, matching everything up. So everything you want to do is down around in here. So you'll have one with just a single wire. And it'll go all the way up here in the front. I'd like to be able to show this on camera, but there's no way I could have the camera here because my finger, I could barely see what I'm doing here. In fact, I can't see nothing in here. There's our first one. The second one here is all the way up front. I want to make sure you go underneath this other harness. It's an unmarked one. It's 2 conductor. And there's 3 ports up here in the very front. Maybe I can come get this in there better somehow. I don't know if you're going to be able to see this or not, but this is the one I just unplugged from the single one that goes up here. This is a 2-wire connector. There's 3 ports here. It goes into the center one. So getting all these wires up underneath that other harness, I don't need to unplug that if I don't have to. It's the ones we've taken off. We'll start here with the one on the end. I'll unplug that. May need to do a little wiggling on them, get them loose. They're lacquered in there, so you're going to have to, let me show you a little trick here. Okay, using a small screwdriver, you can get right at the base there. You just give that a little bit of a twist. It'll break that lacquer loose and you'll be able to unplug it. Oh, that's rubbery, sticky stuff there. Don't force it, just take your time with it. Okay, this one is marked X. That's for our X stepper motor. So we'll look on the new wiring harness here and find a 4-pole marked X. It's Y. That one's marked X. We'll plug him in. The next one up here is going to be our Y stepper motor. So you would skip one and then there'd be the Y stepper motor there. And you're going to have the same thing. That's going to be glued in there pretty good. May take a little wiggle in there, but it'll come out. There we go. Now on your new one, that's where Y would plug in. And that gets your old harness out. Now you've got two left. The board is marked. One up here, clear up right here, is marked probe. This one here is a PR on it. That's going to be probe. That's going to be one of your limit switches. This one here is marked X minus. And that is all the way up here at the front. I have to unwind some wires here. Yeah, make sure you get it the right direction. Only plugs in one way. Don't force any of these. You sure don't want to break any pins, bend any pins, or break circuit board. Everything should go in pretty easy, just like that. So now we're ready to put this back together. And you want to make sure your cable passes through that opening there. And I left my SD card in there. Take that out so I don't break it. Get all your ports lined up. Shouldn't have to force anything. Everything should line up. Just like so. You can put your screws back in. This right here is your flame sensor, by the way, in case you were wondering what that thing is sticking out of there. I'm going to stick my SD card back in there so I don't lose it. I'll be needing to put some firmware on it later, but for right now, put it there so I know where it is. Now we can get this mounted back on the laser. When you're reassembling, don't forget to pass the belt back through that little slot on the end of the plate there. So we're back in business here. Got everything hooked in. Now I need to gather up some wire ties. Okay, got everything together. Just need to lay it back, set it back on its board. And I may do a drag chain on this someday. I'll think about that. Doesn't look like it'd be all that difficult. Well, we'll get some tools cleaned up, get it back on the board, and we'll do a little test here. Okay, I inserted the SD card and then with the laser with it off. I turned the laser on. It did its whole configuration, and now a screen comes up that says update succeeded, please restart. So I'm going to turn this off, remove that SD card, and remove that file from it. Don't leave it on there, or every time you go to start your laser, it's going to try to configure itself. Okay, focusing. Focus on this is different than the 5 watt and 10 watt. You have a acrylic plate here. I haven't peeled this stuff off of it yet. So we're going to do a little test engrave here. You set this block under there. Take your screws back down. Now you're focused. We'll just do a little something from current position here just to make it quick and easy. Put a little bit of text in here. So I'll do a little test engrave here. I'm going to engrave the word test at 4,000 millimeters per minute. And I turn the power down to 50%. And I'm just doing this one from current position to make it quick and easy. So I'm going to frame this real quick, make sure I'm on my board where I'm supposed to be. And we're good. Let's hit start. I will say that the shield on this is really something because it really blocks that laser beam. I can see that the laser is there and that it's on, but it's not bright or glare or anything. So it's quite the good shield they got on the front of that. So I do not have goggles on right now. Well, that setting was just a little bit hot, but it did an excellent job. Now we're going to try to cut something here just to play with this a little bit. This is a piece of 12 millimeter plywood, birch plywood, and I'm wondering how this will do. My set here is 100% power at 100 millimeters per minute. You have kind of a cheat sheet you can download, but there's nothing in there specifying this, so we're going to give this a shot and see if it'll do it in one pass. How long will this take? It'll take 1 minute and 45 seconds. I do have my air assist on. This is a whole lot different than using just regular like solid pine or basswood or something like that, because plywood has a lot of different things in its cores and you really never know. So just curious to see how it does here and how bad it scorches. Judging by the smoke that's coming out of my honeycomb board down there, it looks like it must be cutting through. Oh, take a look at this. Almost. Almost. 2 passes would have done it for sure. There is an outline here. Like I say, plywood, especially when you have dense plywood, it's furniture grade here. You have all these dense plies. I'm going to try it again, but I'm going to do it with 2 passes. Change the speed to 150 millimeters per minute, and I'm going to make it 2 passes. There it is. So yes, the upgrade worked. Little heart there. 1/2 inch plywood. That's pretty good. If you were using, like, I imagine if I would have done that on a piece of cedar, I could have cranked through it a lot quicker than that. This being this furniture grade plywood, it's not Baltic birch, but it's a furniture grade. It's multi-ply and it's very dense. So that was a pretty good little test of this head. So, okay, how long did it take me to do this? It is now 1:06 p.m. and I started this at 8 o'clock this morning. That includes fooling around with the camera and all that kind of stuff, and having to drill out a broken screw and, you know, things you run into. So, yeah, it took me quite a few hours to do this, but I'm going to be happy with this. I wanted to get one of my lasers up to 20 watt. I'm doing it here with the longer, which I use for just a multitude of different things. It's kind of my all-purpose laser. Perfect candidate for it. So if you got anything out of this, appreciate getting a thumbs up. Always helps the channel. Roger in the shop. Thanks for watching. We'll see you on the next one.